Welcome to NEK-TV Rocks. My guest today is Eleanor, who is the founder, owner, creator of the NEK Tasting Center and Eden Cider. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Pam.
You are wearing so many hats. So let's talk first about Eden Cider, because that's clearly your baby that you've grown from the get-go.
Sure.
How many years have you been running it?
10 years.
Wow.
We're just going to be celebrating our 10th anniversary. We had a little bit of a celebration in January, which is the month when we incorporated back in 2008. But we're hopefully planning a nice big celebration this summer.
A public celebration?
Public celebration,
oh,
yes.
Oh, cool. What are you going to do?
I'm not sure yet, and I don't know the date, so stay tuned.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure that probably many of the people watching this have already tried your cider and are already fans, so anything else as well would just be a benefit, a bonus. But tell us more about the Tasting Center. What made you come up with that as the concept?
So it's very clear when you look at all of the research that's been done in the Farm to Plate Strategic Plan for Vermont, and the fact that Vermont is a place where more than any other state, people are looking at local food and appreciating it and supporting it. We have an incredible agricultural economy here. It's really important to our state. And so when we were looking at expanding our facility, we wanted to create a place that would really showcase the incredible foods that are produced up here in the Northeast Kingdom. We have some of the world's best cheeses, beers, ciders, spirits, maple products that are amazing, and in Greater Vermont, you know, all kinds of chocolates and great things. So
jellies, jams,
pickles. And yet, if you live up here in our 3 counties, it's really hard to find these things to buy in a regular store or to understand how well they often go together.
Right.
And so the Tasting Center is meant to be a destination where you can come, learn about, taste, enjoy, and buy great foods and drinks from the Northeast Kingdom.
And put them together.
Put them together, right. Enjoy them together at the Cider House restaurant. Taste, we'll always have a couple little cheeses on the weekends out for people to taste. Maple, you can taste the different grades of maple syrup. And then, pairing ideas and what cheeses might go with which condiments and which sauce salumi and the cider that would pair best with that, and having people there who are knowledgeable and able to help.
Yeah, last summer and into the fall, you had some really interesting Saturday kinds of workshops and events.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of those were really creative and gave anybody who came in fabulous ideas.
Yeah.
And I would never have considered blue cheese with chocolate before I actually tried it, but boy, was that
Oh my
good.
Gosh, those are so amazing.
No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's so true. Yes, and that's something we plan to continue to
so you're going to do more of those?
Oh yes, they were a big hit and just fun for everybody. Fun for the people who work there, fun for the people walking in the door, and really close to the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. So we absolutely will do more of those.
Is anything going to happen this autumn, fall? What am I talking about? Autumn. This winter, because it's still winter and moving into spring.
So we're working on that. It's a slow time of year. We're not open. Not all the participants are open all the time.
Right.
So we're sort of regrouping now that it's the end of the busy season, and we're trying to get our heads back on straight and figure out what makes sense.
There's that sort of discrepancy between the business side of it, because you guys are so busy up until the beginning of the year, and so are people. But we're all looking for entertainment in January and February. And you're saying, give me a break, please.
Well, I mean, the Cider House already had a great evening with Below Zero.
That was last weekend. That was fabulous.
Yeah, exactly that. And they've done a couple trivia nights. So there's definitely things that are going on.
Happening.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so if you're on the Facebook page, Northeast Kingdom Tasting Center, NEK Tasting.
Yeah, and anybody who isn't on Facebook can go downtown and see it posted in your window.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's always there.
Yeah. And then you're so good about reposting on Vermont, Newport Rocks, so that's
great. Part of the fun of getting people to enjoy being in Newport. We've got so much here.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Winter Swim is involved with the Tasting Center in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're excited to always try and be a part of the Kingdom Games and what they're putting on.
You're really involved in community as well.
I'm not as involved as I wish I could be, because it's near and dear to my heart. I spend an awful lot of time on the road for the cider business, which takes me away sometimes, or can't attend meetings that I would like to. But my heart is certainly involved in the community.
Yeah, I always see Eden Cider as a sponsor for so many different events, and that's really important.
Yeah, that's important to us, and we're always happy to respond to the call to support good things that are making life better for people here.
Where are you hoping to take this in the next year?
We have some exciting expansion plans in the cider company, and we'll use the Tasting Center as a place to showcase those. We've got the 10th anniversary coming up.
What are you expanding in the cider business?
We're actually going to launch a canned cider.
Wow. Is this the good news?
And it's interesting because if you had heard me say that 3 years ago, I mean, the words would never have passed my lips, right? But because the ciders that we make are much more like wine, and that they're focused on the quality of these very unique heirloom and cider variety apples. So like wine, we're trying to showcase the flavors of the apples, not sort of ferment something out and add lots of stuff into it. But what we've come to realize is that the can as a package has a value independent of the quality of the liquid inside it. That it's a very lightweight, easy, take it on your canoe trip kind of package, and recyclable, and it's just easy. And so we're going to take a really good quality cider and put it in a can. It will not be the cheapest can by any means,
right?
But it will be less expensive than the fancy champagne method ciders that we do in a bottle. But still, reflective of the quality of the apples.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of think of a can as environmentally friendly, or that cider in it won't somehow be harmed I mean, that's a stupid thing to say, but
yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's interesting because glass bottles weigh an incredible amount.
Yes.
And the amount of energy it takes to ship them around. Wine has the worst carbon footprint of any consumer product, except for bottled water.
Right.
So while we love that glass bottle because it seems like it's something that's very close to nature, it's sand and whatever, and it's been around forever, and it's true that the ingredients in it are less harmful to extract from the environment.
Yeah.
Once you have aluminum, it is the most recyclable metal of material. It's the thing that gets most recycled most often.
That's really interesting.
And it's much lighter, and it is a lot of arguments for. Now that we've gotten rid of those plastic rings.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. So without those, everything's recyclable. It's all good. It doesn't go in the landfill.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So can we expect boxes next with cider?
No. But hey, I said that about cans.
This in another 3 years.
No, but kegs. I'll sell you a keg anytime.
Kegs are a really good idea for a party. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, we make the small, slim ones that you can pretty much go through if you have a good raucous party going on.
Cider, the new rockers beverage.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. So, it's really fun at the Tasting Center. Just on Monday, 6 folks walked in. They'd been at J Peak, and they were on their way back to New York City, and they had been up at J Peak looking around for what can we do on our way back. And because we're on the Vermont attractions map, and they were Googling what's in the environment, and because of Eden Cider, comes up, and the Tasting Center, they came down to Newport, and they came in the door, and they had a great experience. We did a tasting, they walked around, they shopped, they walked out with a bunch of products, and the money that they're spending on those products is going to people who live and work here in Vermont, and they had a wonderful time, and that's a lot of what we were hoping it was just a great example of this is what we're trying to do here. Give people a reason to come downtown, have them come in and spend money on products where a lot of the value added in that product is here in Vermont, and hopefully go home and tell their friends what a great time they had and come back.
And then you can employ more local people.
Yeah, exactly.
Win-win.
It's a happy cycle of it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard, I assume, to build partnerships with the other industries around here. I mean, we're surrounded by resorts who are also trying to capture people and hold them. I make it sort of sound like they're hostages, but clearly they're not. But if you've had a hard day skiing, then sometimes the thought of coming off the slopes, particularly if everything there is challenging. Is there a way of working with the resorts?
So they've actually been super supportive, and
That's great.
they have tour buses that they take people to leave the mountain and come and visit. They go to Kucher's Maple and Kingdom Brewing, and they've been coming to the tasting center. I think I actually feel pretty fortunate that we have.
That's great. Is that happening now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's actually good for the whole of the street as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, having a tasting center as a sort of anchor store benefits everybody.
Yes, to the extent that it's bringing people downtown who would
Yeah.
not otherwise be coming. Yeah.
And you're clearly getting a lot of publicity
Yeah.
in far-flung places. People have told me, one of the swimmers from last year said that she'd found your Border Buster cider, which was such a cool idea, combining the apples that went with a particular swim from both sides of the border, that she'd found it in some obscure place, not even in Vermont.
She might have found some in North Carolina.
That was probably it. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought, wow.
Our North Carolina distributor, the guy who owns the company that sells it in North Carolina, has a house on Memphremagog.
Oh.
So he took some home with him.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. That's how we got connected in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other ways of connecting with other states like that. I mean, there have to be other people who vacation up here or have houses and
Absolutely.
cottages.
Yeah. And a lot of them have come into the tasting center
Yeah.
over the years. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's really neat.
Yeah, we have distribution we have 15 relationships covering 16 states and the District of Columbia. So,
Do the other products in the tasting center get connected to the cider and distributed as well, or hasn't that grown much yet?
So there's two parts to that question. The first part is that alcohol distribution is completely different from food distribution.
Welcome to regulation.
Yes, exactly. So it's, you have to get back to the point of purchase to try and put them together again. And there have been occasions when we've been able to get, a Whole Foods store to put the ice cider next to the cheese in a display, around the holidays, which is great. But even within the stores, the buyers tend to be different so that they don't do as much cross-merchandising as they could. We've been excited to provide materials to some of the cheesemakers. So there's a cheese that Jasper Hill makes with that's washed. It's a washed rind cheese where they've washed the rind with the used yeast from the fermentation process for the cider. And that's
sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's like gooey, sweet, cheesy deliciousness, and unfortunately only available through Whole Foods. So, yeah.
You don't even have it.
No, we can't even have that.
Oh,
yeah.
Your cider, you can't have it.
No, that's all right. We've had other ones over the years. Hopefully we'll do some more. Yeah.
Huh. It's really complicated in ways that lay people like me don't even think of, because it sort of seems so easy. Stick a bottle of cider there, stick the cheese there, and stick the chocolate right there. What's the problem?
Yeah. So it is hard. So it is unique to have a place like the Tasting Center that's saying on purpose, this is what we're trying to do, is to say these products are wonderful in and of themselves, but you can enhance your experience by learning how they go together and sort of about the flavors and what flavors go well together and so forth. I mean, the classic thing in France and other parts of Europe is you eat the cheese with whatever the beverage is that's produced in the same area, because over hundreds of years they've learned to showcase each other to the best abilities. And the difference in the United States is we're very entrepreneurial and everybody makes whatever they want, not just what's going to go with that other thing. but it gives you all sorts of opportunities to find great pairing combinations and try
Right.
things and see what works for you.
Right.
So
Well,
it's fun.
America's a lot more, I'm going to use the word neurotic, about pasteurization and non-pasteurization. They tend to get freaked out by unpasteurized anything.
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
Europe, of course, that
Right.
is far less of an issue. Nobody really cares. So it's much easier to do
Yeah.
things at source point.
Yeah, there's a comparable sort of discussion, debate, similar word, can't think of it, for in the wine world right now,
Mhm.
between natural wine and some products in the wine industry that have become sort of highly manipulated to be a certain profile for a certain
Right.
target customer. So corporate wine maybe, perhaps,
Mhm.
versus farmer wine.
Mhm.
We've been doing some of those ourselves, and it's been very interesting because you can't sacrifice flavor or quality for that. And
Right.
in essence, what you're shooting for is even better quality. So it tastes great, and it's something that really reflects where it's made and what the fruit is and who cared for the fruit and how they cared for it.
Contains the individuality of the
Yeah.
apples.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cheeses that have that individual
Yeah.
local
Yeah,
flavor.
and so you can do that when you still really understand what's going on, so that you don't make mistakes. So in Europe for hundreds of years, that was people made mistakes and
Right.
learned from them, and that got passed down. And in this country, where it's a much more fluid entrepreneurial environment, knowing the science is really important. Not because you're going to use the science to do
Right.
chemistry, but because you
Wizardry.
yeah, right. Don't look behind the curtain while I add all this crazy weird stuff. More just knowing that, for example, if you're making a totally natural cider,
Mhm.
having high acidity
Mhm.
or low pH means it's much more protected from spoilage
Mhm.
during fermentation. Closing the lid of a tank so that it's not open to oxygen, where things can get in, but also oxygen can lead to all kinds of metabolic pathways that have unhappy results. Just knowing those few
Yeah.
things and keeping things in a cool place in a cellar. Right.
Right.
In your garage, if it's above ground in the summer, is not a good place. In your cellar is much better.
Mhm.
People have known that for centuries.
Right.
Really produces can produce a great cider with absolutely nothing done to it. Just press the apples, put the juice in a tank, and
Yeah.
a year later put it in the bottle. It can be a little more hair raising, and you have to be really attentive and careful, but it can be done.
Years ago, my father was experimenting with making ginger beers, and he was doing really well, and then he would store them under the beds, because our houses in Europe, of course, were pretty cool, and so, but every so often the batch would explode.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you have had experiences like that.
No, we do
No?
everything we can to make sure things don't explode. Explosions are not good, especially for a product that's going out in the world.
No, my mother was not happy with
No, I'm
those
sure.
experiences.
Yeah. No, the worst we've had is like a couple bottles where, they weren't quite chilled down. You open them up and it's sort of the bubbles come out like a little more aggressively than you would like. But
And you stop that by chilling it more?
you can on something that's got a high degree
Yeah.
of carbonation, like a champagne.
Right.
If it's chilled, it won't, be as aggressive.
Yeah. Have you guys done any workshops yet using the ingredients that you have, like the cider and the maple products, with cooking?
We haven't. We don't have a demonstration kitchen set up very
Huh.
well, but there's no reason we couldn't. I mean, we had Evan from Vermont 99 Meats come in, right? So he's from over
Yeah.
in Craftsbury, and he's working with Pete's Greens
Mhm.
and the pigs
Yes.
that they're raising, and the pork is unbelievably delicious, and he makes these great sausages.
Mhm.
And he came in on one of our
Yeah.
Saturdays and, put them on the
Right.
little 2 electric burner and heat them
Mhm.
up. So there's no reason we couldn't use that little electric burner and do some interesting things. So
You can use
that's a
cider
good idea.
in so many ways.
Yes.
I mean, King Arthur Flour are doing this, quote, boiled cider stuff that you buy in a very expensive bottle. But that's unnecessary. It's easy just to use your own cider, as most of us cook with wine
Yeah.
in the same way.
It's great in a pan reduction when you have a pork chop going on. Or,
Yeah.
it's fun to use in salad dressings.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of
That's what
us
we do.
use cider vinegar routinely.
Yeah.
So why not use cider?
Yeah, and braising. Yeah,
Yes.
I like braised. And one of the things that's great about cider is it goes with things that wine just doesn't. So pork, turkey.
Mm-hmm.
It's great with a lot of vegetarian cuisine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian,
Yeah.
so I think whoopee when you talk about
right,
pork.
right, exactly.
But there are
Yeah.
so many creative ways of
Mhm.
using it, but unless somebody's there talking about it, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys could do that so well.
You're right. Good idea. We'll do that.
You have the kitchen. I mean, you have a kitchen right there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could work out something with the restaurant.
Yeah, it's just you can't watch somebody cook in it. That's
Right.
right. That's it's not
Right.
set up for.
Well, maybe
that,
there could be more of those little rings out there.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
the space.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I went to an event that was downstairs in the cidery
Mm-hmm.
part. It was AARP, I think, who did it.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever do that again? It was really interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a slightly weird place to have a party, but the
Yeah.
food was great, and
Yeah.
obviously so was so was the wine and cider.
Mhm.
But it let people see what was down there.
Yeah, yeah. I think doing that requires having to do it in a purposeful way, to
Right.
be able to deliver a great experience consistently. You have to have somebody organizing it and planning it
Yeah.
and staffing it. I do think we've done some great events down there, and I'd love to do more.
Yeah.
And we'll probably would do those more in the summertime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do tours of the cidery?
We do. If you walk, so this time of year, the tasting bars is staff for doing tastings.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you come in and somebody's there and you ask, we can take you down. We don't
Right.
sort of say every Saturday at 2 p.m. because
Right.
not everybody can come at 2 p.m. And if we're around, we'll be happy to take
Yeah.
you down. Yeah.
I was sort of thinking of schools, actually.
Well, our favorite tours that happen are the St. Johnsbury Academy's Summer AP Institute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they come up at, there's a different group every week over the course of 3 weeks in the summer, and we love them because they're teachers and they're always interested in everything and they
Sure.
ask great questions.
Yeah.
So,
What
yeah,
about
we'd
the
love to do
local
more of
schools?
those.
The Career
Um,
Center.
Yes, of course it's alcohol, so it would be for people over 21.
Even
yeah.
if they weren't doing the tasting, I mean, looking at the science side of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it's a whole big production.
yeah. Yeah, I'm always a little
Uh,
just very
Covering
conscious of
yourself.
alcohol and schools don't mix. So that's
That's a shame.
well, I don't know. We're-
I don't know. I mean,
Maybe
I remember
circumspect.
when I was probably in the equivalent of middle school, we went to a brewery. We didn't actually drink the beer that time, but it was more about learning about what was produced locally,
Mm.
because it was local,
Mm.
and we learned a lot about the science,
Yeah,
because
there is science. Yeah.
the way that science makes sense to kids is when you see it applied to something.
Yeah.
Because learning a concept, I mean, it's like learning math.
Yeah.
What's the point unless you learn how to apply it?
Right, right.
So there's so much science involved in it, particularly here. I mean, it's more organic, as you said, in Europe.
Yeah.
But here, you've really come at it from the science side
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Well, especially my husband, who I started this business with, is a PhD scientist, so
Right.
it was an easier place to start for us.
Yeah. What made you start it?
We tasted ice cider in Montreal in
Yeah.
the winter of 2006 and thought, why is nobody really doing this in Vermont? Because it's our terroir. We have lots of cold weather, see this winter especially,
Yes.
and lots of interesting apples. And so we just started making some in our basement for fun. And my problem is me for fun means let's learn all about it and do all kinds of different things. And we ended up with 120 gallons of ice cider.
In
And
your
we're like,
basement.
well, I don't think we could drink all of that ourselves. So I just got the license and started selling it, and we sold
And it
out, and people wanted
grew.
more, and one thing happened after another, yeah.
Yeah, we moved here in 2008, and I first ran into you and your cider at Northwoods. There
Yeah.
was some event there.
Yes,
And you were a very small business then.
yes, right out of our basement in
Yeah,
Charleston.
you have grown really fast.
Well, not as much as some, but
Probably.
we've grown, yeah.
But for a business up here, how did you grow your business in a way that didn't kill you? Because
I'm not dead yet.
You're a perfectionist.
I think the key was that we were making a product that was very high quality and very unique, and had an appeal beyond the place where we make it.
Right.
Because it is expensive, and it's not something you drink every day. And,
No.
Since then we've expanded out into regular ciders and so forth. But at the time, cider was not a thing. There was woodchuck, and that was pretty much it in the market.
Right,
And
Strongbow.
we weren't thinking about growing a big company or anything
Yeah.
like that. We were just making this little unique product. But it pretty quickly found, got some attention in the press and distributor in Massachusetts. And, we were looking at it saying, okay, if we're going to make it a business, we have to get to a certain scale to be able to not lose everything. And
Right.
it's been really a lot of time on the road.
So then you had to find investors, presumably.
We've been very fortunate to be supported by Yankee Farm Credit.
That's great.
Yeah, they've been super great.
And then sell the concept. First you had to find the building.
Yeah.
And then sell the concept to a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, so the Tasting Center it's really been a community effort from the beginning. The Northeast Kingdom Travel and Tourism Association with Gloria Bruce,
Right.
back in 2010, we had did a feasibility study on the concept of this and identified Newport and identified the building as part of that work.
Right.
And then we raised money from people who are in the community who care about Newport, people who grew up here, people who, there were a couple of foundations who made program-related investments. There's a total of something like 17 different investors.
It's a lot of
involved.
trench work you did
Yeah,
for this business.
Yep, and we had great help getting the building renovated, and it really was one of those magic happens things, because there were so many reasons in the feasibility study when we looked at it where it just wouldn't work.
Right.
The initial estimates for the amount it would take to rehab the building were 4 times what we actually spent.
Wow.
I got that back and I said, okay, well, this is over, done, it's not going
Yeah.
to happen. And then, people found a way. And yeah.
So there's been a lot of creative community as well.
Yes,
And-
yes. And people doing things because they care about Newport and want to see something great
Yeah.
happen here, which is awesome.
It is.
Because it rocks.
We only have a couple more minutes, and it goes really fast, this.
Mhm.
How can community be involved and be supportive now? Because this is important to Newport and to the Northeast Kingdom. I mean, this is not just Newport. How can we be involved in a way that's constructive?
Well, come and visit.
Spend money.
Spend money. If you're out buying a gift for somebody, think about getting a great local food product as a gift. If you're having a party,
Right.
come and see what we have to offer to make your party a great party. Bring people down to the cider house and have wonderful beers and ciders on tap, and
Right.
amazing burgers made with Northeast Kingdom processing beef.
Oh, wonderful
they're
local
so
black
delicious.
beans.
Or local black beans. Sorry, I'm sorry. I
No,
hate that.
joking.
Right. Cheese. The mac and cheese is
Cheese.
unbelievable.
Yes,
It's like the most expensive cheese in a mac and cheese ever.
Yeah,
It's
but
really
it's
good.
worth it.
It's really good.
It is worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just your boxed mac and cheese.
No, it's not orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if people who are listening have ideas for other products, local products,
Yeah.
could they talk to you about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
What's the easiest way to reach you?
If you send an email to info@nekttastingcenter.com, we will
Okay,
get it.
that would
Yeah.
be the easiest way.
Yeah. Mhm.
Or they could walk in and maybe find you
Walk
there.
in, yeah.
You're
Yeah,
quite
somebody-
often there when you're not on the road.
and anybody, whoever's at the coffee shop or at the
Yeah.
tasting bar can take a message and get it to the
Yeah.
right person.
That's right, we haven't even mentioned the coffee shop. There's a coffee shop
Yeah.
making really good coffee.
Yeah, single source, direct from family farms, roasted
Yeah.
in the area, and just
It's good.
delicious. It's
good
really, if you
coffee.
want
It
if you
is
want a
good
specialty
coffee.
coffee drink,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or even just a cup of, quote, regular coffee, it's still good
it's
coffee.
still really good coffee, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Pam.
And we'll all come down to the tasting center.
See you there.
Yeah, yeah.
Toast a glass of cider.
Yes.
Cheers.